All right, welcome everyone to another chat on the Helo, which you have probably seen some of our other videos by now. Today we're going to isolate one area and we're going to talk about sleep. And you may know that with the Helo, there are some functions within it that not only monitor your sleep, which is important, and if you've seen the comparison video, that's about as far as any of the major brands do. That's sort of the stepping off point of the Helo. It just kind of starts there and says, not only will we monitor your sleep, we're going to improve the quality of it, the depth of it, the duration, and we're going to talk today about the effects of that. So one of the first things when you sleep, and this would be on the emotional side, the depth of your sleep is more important than sleeping for 10 solid hours. You know, if you sleep for 10 hours and wake up 8 times and it's sort of light sleep, you're better off sleeping for 6 hours and having 3.5 hours really deep REM sleep for especially for the emotional system and the spiritual side to recharge your batteries. Now, what are some of the other effects of, say, sporadic sleep, Thomas, that would be improved by the Helo and some of the other areas that people aren't even aware about the effects of poor sleep?
Well, I don't think most people put that much attention on it. They just hope for a good sleep. But like you said, if you're waking up 3, 4, or 5 times a night, then what happens is your brain doesn't get into the frequency it needs to stay into to recharge, to have a cellular recovery. And you can imagine it like metabolically in the daytime, you change metabolically. When the sun comes up, your endocrine system produces certain hormones, and they're all going to be around energy production, preparing for digestion, elimination, the senses, and the conscious thinking, etc. At night, your system changes metabolically and your body makes different hormones. And these are designed to put you in a specific frequency, a brain frequency, where you can have cellular regeneration. And this is a charging of the electrical fields of the body. The body has an electrical system, and you need to recharge during this phase to feel vital and youthful and have good memory and have a high sense of, you could call it intuition. So that's the basic premise of making sure that you have a good sleep. There's lots of causes of why you wouldn't, but that's one of the most important things. And the Helo will show you the total duration of your sleep, how many hours you slept. It will show you how many hours of that was in deep sleep, where you'll go into REM and NREM sleep, which is the special frequencies that you need to be in to recharge, to have cellular recovery.
I'm not sure if this will even show, but just tell me if this is visible. Is it kind of fuzzy?
Yeah, that's difficult to see. It looks...
Let me just see again. It's going to be out of focus for a second. Just give it a second. It might...
No, I can't get a good visual on that right now.
It won't grab it. But it's showing some of the duration of sleep, like 6 hours and 53 minutes duration, 1 hour and 43 minutes of deep sleep, 5 hours and 10 minutes of light sleep, and wake up 5 times. Now talk about what waking up and why it matters. Waking up too many times is not a good thing.
Well, we're using the Helo because it has the ability to show certain trends. We could call them health trends and or disease trends. You're having a reasonable amount of sleep and you're getting into a relative good area of deep sleep. And how does it rate it on your app when you look at it? When you go onto the sleep function, though, at the bottom, you'll see another screen below the midline of the screen. You're going to show the duration, the sleep, the light sleep, and how many times you wake up. And below that, you have 2 columns. So basically below the median, after it shows you how much sleep you had and the type of sleep you have, in the bottom it gives you a little rating system, 2 columns. It says sleep duration, and it qualifies it as low sleep, low level, lack, normal, or too much sleep.
Okay.
And then the other column will show you not sufficient recovery, sufficient, good sleep, or excellent.
Well, so that'd be powerful for... like you said, for runners, or I guess a lot of people would need that information on the recovery side of things, your body recharging.
Yes, of course, because the sleep during the sleep cycle, you're basically looking for complete recovery, like a battery in the daytime. You your body puts out all this energy, and at night it has to recharge and restore and rejuvenate this field, this electrical field. And the brain literally creates electrical fields, and it communicates electrical impulses through nerves. So if you're not getting enough recovery, you can see changes in the autonomic nervous system. And the autonomic nervous system has two parts to it, a sympathetic and a parasympathetic. One controls all the unconscious things like, making hormones and digesting food. You don't consciously think about that, but it's running. And the conscious things you can change would be like breathing and swallowing and creating stress on yourself or not. Those are conscious choices that you can make that will change things in your nervous system. And why it's important is because if you're not having sufficient quality of sleep, you don't have sufficient quality of nerve regeneration or the ability for the nerves to function properly. And the nerves are carrying all the electrical and hormonal information to the body. They're the wiring system communicating the information from the brain to the organs, glands, and cells. So if you're not getting recovery, and you have diminished recovery, you'll probably have diminished nerve function and diminished function of the glands and the organs and the cells. They won't have as much vitality. We could call it chi in the Western medicine, or we could call it simply in the Western medicine, we call it energy, and in Eastern, we call it chi or ki or vitality, life essence. So you basically want the ability to create enough of a store, enough of a bankroll in this account so that you can have enough nervous energy to function and deal with any stressors in the day. If you don't have that, you might find the person has they can't regulate their emotions fast enough. They might find they're easily to be irritated. They have emotional outbursts, crying too easily. They'll show a whole bunch of patterns that could be directly related to the fact that they're really not recovering in the sleep cycle. So this is vital, a piece of information.
It's like running, when people say they're running on fumes. We've all felt that. When you're running on empty, well, that language is pretty direct. It's telling exactly. You're running on empty is true, and you don't charge right. You're running on fumes, and I don't care who you are, you can't function on fumes for very long. You may get by for a bit, but you do that for a couple of days in a row, the stresses that you're creating systemically, beyond just emotionally and relationship-wise, just your communication with others, is profound. And you do that for extended periods of time. It's documented now. If you have interrupted sleep patterns for 30 days, in excess of 30 days, meaning not sleep deprivation, where someone's not allowing you to sleep, but just sporadic, poor sleep patterns. After 30 days, you have an increase in the likelihood of getting type 2 diabetes, increased likelihood of getting of obesity, and a direct connection to that, interestingly enough, is an increased desire for sugars. That's linked to poor sleep. Well, think about the loop. Desire for sugar, foods that aren't that great for you, obesity, you can see the tie-in. So imagine your weight loss or your lifestyle, your health improves just because you improved your sleep, just your sleep. So you have a device that not only monitoring it, telling you, but it's showing your success as it's improving, because you will see it. You'll watch it change. You'll see the improvement of your sleep cycles. The depth is what I noticed right away. Within days, I saw the duration of the depth of my sleep just start increasing. That's pretty important. You wake up feeling rested. I know people, they'll literally sleep 9. I never understood how they could. It's 10 hours. I'm going, it's like, it's 10:30 in the morning. You still sleeping for real? So yeah, so you went to bed at 11, dude. You're almost pushing half the day. And how much sleep do you need? Clearly, the body's out of whack. They can never feel rested. So it doesn't matter how much they sleep. What's actually happening is they're entering another sleep cycle. They get past a certain time, and the brain's going where they should wake up, but then they nap again. The brain goes, I guess it's time to go to bed. And they need almost another entire sleep cycle to wake up feeling rested, which is not a good strategy for feeling rested, right, Thomas?
There's quite a complex thing happening there. Basically that the system's unregulated. It normally would regulate itself and wake itself up. And the hormones do that. And if you can't make hormones or your body can't communicate and send those signals out, as the hormones are only really messengers. They're messengers the body uses to switch on organs and glands and switch them off at the right time. Digestion, you have to switch digestion on. After a certain amount of time, you have to switch the digestion off. That's a regulated system. An unregulated system may not be interrupted sleep, bowels not working on time or for days. These are just signs of unregulated function that are controlled by the glandular system or the endocrine system that has to have a nervous energy to even communicate. So you can see how the cascade of importance from the sleep cycle, or deprivation, affects the whole endocrine system and the nervous system and the function of the glands and organs and the moods. And it is a chain reaction. And I think when we have a little bit of insight, or if we put things into a really big contrast, we can understand this. Like the purpose of carpet bombing and war for 5 days, what happened in Gulf Storm and the Middle East, the purpose of doing that is in 3 to 5 days, they bomb every 5 minutes. And the purpose of that is to create sleep deprivation in your enemy. After 5 days, their nervous system cannot function. They can't digest, they can't sleep, they can't move their bowels, they can't think.
Wow. They're just completely ineffective.
Surrender. So now if we take that on scale down, if that's 100% stress, and we take it down, and there's people living at 50 to 70 degree of this stress all the time. The high output jobs, dysfunctional relationships, everything's stressful in their life, poor diet, poor lifestyle, no exercise, high emotional stress. And you keep at 50 or 60% stress level for many years, disease doesn't sound like so much of a surprise, does it? There's a pattern. You've actually worked at it. You've actually created an internal environment that's very ripe for dysfunction. So when we get a little bit of a look through something like the Helo, we can see certain patterns, and then we start to be conscious, like, my God, maybe I should just breathe right now. My breath rate's 20. And they breathe and they see the breath rate come down, and then they see the blood pressure drop a little bit. They see the heart rate come down, and they go, my God, I have a little control. So really what this is, it's an interface to get their awareness to see a correlation between the inside and how they're living. So this is, I don't think there's anything on the planet that allows anybody to do this. There's no.
And it's actually interesting because there is an entire industry that unbeknownst to me, it's $1 billion industry, sleep loss. I had no clue until I started seeing some documentaries and doing some research that there's, because people have serious sleep disorders. And as Thomas was saying, there's massive negative effects on that. If you could just improve your sleep, just that one area of your life, a litany of good things start happening. Like your life changes. Now, you can do a lot of good things in the waking state. Change your diet, do all these things, fitness and stuff like that. But if you're only sleeping for 20 minutes of REM and half an hour of deep sleep, you're never recharging. So then you figure, I got to work out more to create the energy. I've got to do the things I got to do to feel on top of my game. And you're actually creating disrepair. It's like some of the conversations of runners that they should not even be running, but they have no idea to quantify that. They should not be running. There's some,
a key point,
right?
The key point you brought up by other information there was, you've seen a scientific correlation between sleep deprivation or improper recovery and a craving for sugar. Now this is and more or less, it's a body's way of trying to get blood sugar up, isn't it? It's unregulated and the body's lacking physical energy in recovery. So those people typically have a pattern and they have a particular pattern of conversation. It's typically like, I can't even function without coffee.
Yeah, without coffee. Or yeah, there's someone's a need for some stimulus.
Right, because you have no endocrine power and no nervous system charge. And in the morning you wake up and it feels like the earth is a magnet and you're just stuck to it. So you have to basically figure a way of getting motivated and moving. So you go, because the adrenals are typically hammered and there's no ability for them to function. So you are relying on adrenaline to wake you up in the morning. That's what wakes you up, is adrenaline. But if you fatigue your adrenals with long-term stress, you immediately, unconsciously will go straight for coffee, sugar, stimulants, just to fire the system up and basically blast it through the day with stimulants. And then you'll start seeing heart rate climbing, right? You'll start seeing the blood pressure rise. You're going to see all of these trends. And really, that's really good information, but we typically can't tell what our blood pressure is by sitting here. I don't know anybody that can tell what their blood pressure is. So at least we can look in it and go, yeah, that's my lifestyle. I don't sleep and I'm under stress and I don't eat enough. Well, then that's why your numbers are like that.
And it would be unwise to not heed that information. What a lot of people do, they can get away with it in their 20s, 30s, bit of their 40s, but after a while, your body is starting to cash the checks that you've been writing for the last couple of decades, and you can't pay them. Your body will not let you get away with it. And to me, that's one of the, I'm 52, so I consider myself healthy, but I don't know. How do I know? Just because I feel good one day? But, I generally feel good, yet this will give me some evidence in areas that I may not have noticed. And the sleep is an issue. And we were going to talk about one other thing that is important today. And that is, like, for me, and generally speaking, and these are doctors' kind of terms, when you're older, you get up in the middle of the night and you may urinate more than you used to. Well, why is that? Oh, it's just age. And they write it off to that. I never bought that stuff. So it's like, even when someone says diet of natural causes when they're 69 or 70, there's still no reason. Age has nothing to do with it when you do research. It's got nothing to do with the age. So that is not a good term. We think, it's old age. Old age didn't cause it. So let's be clear. So, and the same thing with the urination. So, Thomas, what would be the difference of the long sleep, deep sleep, the reason you have to get up, urinate more often than not, so-called, as we age, and the effects are related to that?
Well, from my experience, my personal experience, because I'm not making a medical prognosis or a diagnosis of anything, but I can see about it. It could be simply that I'm keeping the eating cycle too late into the night, or the liquids too high.
For me, that's it.
Shutting down my digestion at 7:30. Where it should be shut down, and giving my body adequate time to process and eliminate before I go to sleep. That helps immeasurably. And medically, if you look into the precursors of diabetes or blood sugar irregulation, you'll see that there's a correlation between frequent urination and blood sugar. Typically, they would say that's pre or diabetic symptoms by the medical profession. There, again, to me, it's really looking at if your body's regulating itself, it does certain things. When a body's healthy, and you look at that as a model, a body that's healthy is regulated, has no problem sleeping. Look at a baby.
Oh, yeah.
The posture is great. When it's tired, it sleeps. It sleeps as long as it wants. It eats when it wants. It has a good long sleep. It wakes up in a good mood. A good babe, a happy baby, that's regulated. The body wakes up, the bowels move, the appetite's normal and strong. Not like, oh, I can't even eat till noon. My bowels, I've never used them, for 3 days or 4 days at a time. So there's some people that say, oh yeah, my bowels are fine. They work normally. And well, how many times a day? No, well, every 3 or 4 days, once. Okay, this is normal.
That's shocking.
It's becoming, I've heard some physicians say it's common. Okay, I would agree it's common, but
doesn't mean it.
I wouldn't agree, and I don't agree it's acceptable. Not.
No, I get kind of shocked if I don't pass 3 times, because I'm like 3 times a day I'm feeling it switch on 2. I'm like, man, that's it.
Yeah,
one. I couldn't imagine 1. I just can't even imagine that.
There's different people eat different amounts and different body types and blood types and things like that. It's a variation, but still, yeah, you food in, food out. That's
exactly 3 meals.
Yeah,
I mean, but
yeah, exactly. Do the math: 3 in, 3 out. A lot of people subscribe to that view. Me too. Not like 20, 30 meals in, 1 time out. Okay. That's all
That
right.
that's a problem.
It's all right if you're making baseball bats, but I don't think it's really a sign of regulated function. Everything, yeah, for me, I just look at it, does it look like it's regulated? Because if it's not regulated, there's something that precedes that, and that's information. That's the hormones regulating that. And if they're not making hormones, are the nerves working? Are the nerves working? Are they recovering? Are they sleeping? So sleep is it's an essential thing to the
So,
human.
and you mentioned something too earlier. I don't know if we just talked about it a bit. Is the you did mention it, but I just want to bring it to other people's attention too, and for myself to be aware that this app's coming out with a blood glucose and the blood viscosity reading. Just so if you're diabetic or pre-diabetic and increased urination, multiple wake up times to go to the washroom, at night, that's a hint. It's something to look at and be aware of, and then make some changes. Again, that's one of the powerful things about this Helo is it's a health and wellness oracle. You're actually learning about yourself, and that's what I kind of liken it to. For those of us who are interested in self-exploration, I like the information. I want to know that. I don't want to hide from it. I want to know it. And that's what empowerment is. Empowerment is I'm informed, I'm educated, I'm a conscious being, and I'm taking action. And I'm learning something about myself. I make changes, I get feedback, I see the change, and this thing actually tells me. Also, not only do I feel it, but I'm getting confirmation is for real. Like, it's not just my imagination, right? So that's profoundly important at all ages. And you grow up with this awareness, you treat your body different. When you're in your 20s, you're going to live to your 150, right? Well, when you're in your 30s, you feel you might make it to your 80. When you're 40, you're thinking, 70's not bad. And in your 50s, you're thinking, 70 would be a home run, right?
Right, of
It
course.
changes. The window of your life path starts shrinking with each year past because you just don't believe it, because you're not living in a way that would allow you to either, one, believe it'll happen, but two, want to live that long. Because if you're not feeling great, who the heck wants to be, 70 and you can't function?
This
There
is
are
it.
people now, they're 70 and 80, they're phenomenal at 75. They look amazing. Ripped, fit, full of energy, traveling, living large. That's what I aspire to, right, Thomas?
Right. This isn't for everybody. It may be for those that want longevity and vitality and flexibility and endurance and stamina and good memory. It may be for those people
Quality life.
to basically to create a quality life, to give you an insight of how to tune up. Every piece of machinery in the planet needs maintenance, and you need a regular scheduled maintenance program. This does not replace the need for a physician. It completely assists a physician. When you go there, first thing he does is he asks you. He wants information from you. He wants to know what you know and also what you don't know. So now imagine walking in there or sending him an app and then going in person to see him, and he looks at 90 days of blood sugar, heart rates,
Incredible.
data he's never going to get. I won't say never, but he probably won't. I don't know of any other device where right now, unless you're strapped up in a controlled setting in a hospital or a facility and doing research, where you would have this much data on a person. This is absolutely phenomenal for a physician or a specialist to be able to look at so much data. They can really they can really pinpoint in on certain situations with this data. It makes their job really easy and really accurate, because by the AMA's own admission, they have a 5 to 6% success in diagnosis of a patient. So that means 95% of the time they've made a misdiagnosis by their numbers. If you make a misdiagnosis, it's highly likely that you could make a error in the
On the
technique.
treatment recommendation.
Right. So you basically could be giving the person a medication that's not taking them in the right direction.
Which this would show.
Right. What we're doing with this, we're basically helping the physician go, oh, actually, this pattern is really clear for me. This much urination, this blood sugar level, and the sleep cycle. I mean, he can zero right in on it and say, now I know what tests to run. I wait for the results and I make a very accurate diagnosis, and I know a treatment plan that'll work very well for this. That is symbiotic for a physician. There's no antagonistic thing going on with the Helo.
Yeah.
Blends right into the profession and the system. So I can't see this not changing the way we view healthcare.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, so now you see today the nature of this product and the nature of health, because it's systemic. It's the original concept or old school concept is you can just let out one thing and we focus on that and fix it, or give a drug to fix that, which is fine. That's one model. Then there's one that's more systemic. You change one thing, it affects something else. So as we're aware of the full systemic nature of our being, and we have a way to monitor it, it's empowering because you see the change in the growth. And we've talked about several things because the body is systemic. We talk about sleep, leads into this, leads into that. It's unavoidable, right? Yet each of these calls, we're going to continue to focus on one area. Today we started with sleep. As you see, it naturally branches off into other areas, which we explore. But we just wanted to bring your attention onto the benefit of having the Helo and its relationship to monitoring your sleep and improving the quality of it for all the things that we've talked about today. So we're going to talk about many other things, and the Helo will continue to expand with new features. So thanks for your time, and any other last comments, Thomas, you want before we part and get ready for another chat?
No, you brought it up, is that everything symbiotic, the sleep cycle will tie in. When we discuss the next talk, if it's on the breath, you're going to see a correlation between the two and how they join. So we look at the body in a holistic way, and we can show that having this much information, you're going to see how it all ties together in the end.
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, thanks for your time again. And if you need any more information on the Helo, you can look through the links below this video or other ones. You'll see comparison videos and other promotional videos on the Helo. So if you want to get one, you'll be able to contact us, and we'll take care of you, assist you in getting a Helo for yourself and how to get the most out of it. These videos will always be available to our customers or anyone who's just curious and learning more about their health. So thanks for your time, and we'll see you on the next Helo chat.